not really sure how this franchise is still going, but we've got 4 of them now. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. Today I'm going to be ranking the 4 films of Sony's Spider-Man universe as part of my franchise Rankography series. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. So what is a rankography exactly? Well, it's my ranking of a filmography, whether that be a director's output, an actor's appearances, or even an entire franchise. My rankographies are based on personal preference, and I rank movies according to how much I enjoyed them, rather than any specific technical merit or attribute. Remember, this is just my ranking, not the ranking, so be sure to post your own personal ranking of the SSU in the comments below. Sony has been clinging onto their Spider-Man sliver of Marvel for dear life, and even though they've loaned the friendly neighborhood web-slinger to the MCU for the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, they're not ready to give him up entirely. Instead, they decided they wanted in on the cinematic universe game, and created what is now known as Sony's Spider-Man universe, or the SSU. Ironically, and perhaps a little counterintuitively, Spider-Man has yet to appear in the SSU, and instead, the franchise currently consists of 3 anti-hero focused films and 1 sort of reluctant hero film that are all extremely influenced by superhero movies of the early 2000s. I've already reviewed all 4 of these movies on this channel, so if you want to check those out for some more in-depth thoughts on each of them, I'll put links in the description below, and also link them up in the cards as we go along. Alright, let's get this rankography started. Coming in at number 4, Morbius. I hate sounding blatantly negative right out of the gate, but this is one of those rankographies where the last place film is actually bad. I'll admit that I had very little interest in this movie going in, but I still wanted it to be okay. And there was some potential here. Morbius is kind of an interesting character. Sort of what you might imagine Batman would be if he'd been bitten by a radioactive bat or something. And Jared Leto was even okay in the role. But man, is this a bad movie. Not just disappointing, not just underwhelming, but bad. Morbius was one of those films that had felt like it had been on the horizon forever. So many delays, so many pushbacks, and yet they didn't use any of that time to improve the film. Both the script and the editing are awful here, combining to create a shockingly unstructured film. Outside of this franchise, it's been a while since I saw a movie that was so poorly constructed. The story frequently borders on incoherent, scenes are just haphazardly thrown together in a way that genuinely feels random at times, and the characters have nothing to them, so the stakes of the film have zero impact. And then, of course, there's the action. The visual effects here are very much of a 2000s throwback nature, and they are rough to watch. There's so much speed ramping and cheesy slow motion. Plus, there's this blur effect that, when combined with the terrible editing, makes it impossible to follow or care about the movie's many swirl fights. Coming in at number 3, Madame Web. This movie is slightly better than Morbius, but not by much. Once again, we've got a very poorly structured film. The plot and story structure do feel a bit less random than those of its franchise predecessor, but this is still a jumbled mess. To be fair, finding a way to convey the concept of premonitions that's both visually interesting and easy to follow is a bit of a challenge, but it definitely felt like the filmmakers put in very little effort to overcome that challenge. What we have here is instead a tangled web of dreams, flashbacks, and fake-out style future visions. If it had been done well, this could have been a really interesting ability to see put in practice for a superhero. But it ends up feeling wasted here as part of a never-ending setup for a sequel that's likely never to come. As of right now, Madame Web is a bit of an outlier in the SSU. Not only is it the first film to focus on a female character, but it's also the first in which our protagonist isn't an anti-hero, and is instead a traditional hero. Well, sort of. Like I said, this movie is about 95% setup, so the heroics on display here are minimal, but Madame Web is unquestionably the good guy of the story. Unfortunately, the attempts to mix things up from the franchise norm don't help this film escape from the movie-crushing grasp of the SSU. There are some Spider-Man adjacent references and characters that feel shoehorned in, and this film is set in 2003, seemingly as an additional way to try to capture that early 2000s feel that all the SSU films carry. But this movie falls more on the Morbius side of that than the Venom side, with an exposition-heavy script that's exceptionally low on humor, fun, or enjoyable campiness, but high on very obvious rewrites, resulting in some of the worst ADR I've seen in a while. Seriously, you'd think you were watching a spaghetti western at times. Madam Web had some potential, but it's rare to come across a major studio film that's so half-assed and so incompetently made. Coming in at number 2, Venom, Let There Be Carnage. This isn't a great movie by any means, but the gap between this film and both Morbius and Madam Web is huge, which makes this movie look practically Criterion-worthy by comparison. So this film was kind of a surprise for a number of reasons. First, it was surprising that we even got this sequel at all. The first Venom didn't do great, and with the long time gap, it seemed like the SSU was a bit of a non-starter. But Let There Be Carnage pushed on, and finally did get a release. In many ways, it's very much like its predecessor. It has that same campy cheesiness of a 2000s superhero movie, and also a very similar type of humor. This is most prominent, once again, with the relationship between Eddie Brock and Venom. They've got the same silly, fun dynamic as before, but with a little more heart, as they realize just how much they mean to each other. From a story perspective, this is actually more cohesive than the first film, which, amazingly, allows this movie to make sense within the context of the franchise. It's kind of a natural progression for Brock, Venom, and the rest of the returning characters. It's still hampered by the occasional goo fight and some jumpy editing, but the visuals are much better this time around. Really, the main issue with the sequel is the villain. Now, the villain of the first film wasn't strong either, but Carnage is a much bigger part of this movie. I mean, he's so important that he's in the title. Woody Harrelson entertainingly hams things up, but both our villain characters here are underdeveloped, and end up feeling disappointingly mediocre. So that means my number 1 SSU film is Venom. So, much like an extraterrestrial symbiote, this is a film that has continued to grow on me over the years. When I first saw it in the theater, I didn't really know what to expect, and I was not impressed with what I saw. But with subsequent rewatches, I've been able to embrace the cheesy 2000s throwback vibe. Once it became clear to me that it was intentional, it really worked for the movie and the characters. This movie does not take itself seriously at all. It knows it's silly and campy and runs with it. There are definitely still some issues here. The CGI goo fights are pretty rough for one, though still quite a bit better than Morbius's swirl fights. It's also got some script issues, including some occasionally rough dialogue and an underwhelming villain, but those are problems present in all of the SSU films. Venom is not a good movie. Really, none of the SSU movies so far have been good, but I genuinely enjoy Venom because it's incredibly entertaining. Ridiculous and very stupid, but entertaining. The sequel is definitely fun too, and another not good SSU film that I like, but this first movie is still the best one for me on that front. And that's almost exclusively because of the relationship between Eddie Brock and Venom, easily the highlight of this film. Their relationship is fully established at the start of the sequel, but here, they're just getting to know each other, which results in some fun, silly banter and a whole lot of entertaining situational humor. Tom Hardy plays these Brock-Venom moments so well, and his array of facial expressions alone would earn this movie the top spot in this list. Alright, so that's my rankography of Sony's Spider-Man universe. 4 movies, 3 protagonists, and unintuitively, still no Spider-Man. What does your ranking look like? I'd love to see some reasoning for your order, so be sure to post it in the comments below. Remember, I've already reviewed all 4 of these movies, so you can check those videos out if you want some more in-depth discussion of each, as well as my ratings, pros and cons, and even tailored film recommendations. And if you're interested in buying any of these movies, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you use them, if you're in the market for any of these movies. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this rankography, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe or add it to see more rankographies like this, as well as movie reviews. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainely Movies. The way life should be.